Okay, welcome back. Today we are solving two-step equations. So far we've done one-step equation. We've only done one thing to get the variable by itself. When you solve equations that have one operation, you use inverse operations like the opposite operation. So the inverse of adding would be subtracting. So in this example here, n plus 7 equals 15, we would subtract 7 to undo the adding 7. So when you have operations, when you use inverse operations, we can use these inverse operations also to solve equations that have more than one operations. So what's important here, though, is the order in which we do things. So what we're going to do is go backwards through the order of operations. We're undoing things, so it makes sense to undo things by reversing things, by going backwards through the order of operations. So again, reverse the order of operations when solving equations with more than one operation. A couple key ideas here. We use the additive inverse and the multiplicative inverse to solve two-step equations. So what we want to do is get the variable by itself. So when we look at the additive inverse, so that's a number that we can add to a number to make it become 0. So 4 plus negative 4 would give me 0. So a number plus its opposite equals 0. Negative 1/2 plus positive 1/2 would give me 0. That's important, and it's what we did when we had x plus 7. We add the opposite there. We had plus 7. We're going to subtract 7 to make that go away, to make it become 0. The multiplicative inverse means we are going to multiply by the reciprocal of the number to make it become 1. Very helpful when we have a fraction as our coefficient. So all I do is flip the number. So remember, 3 is really 3 over 1. So when I flip that, that's 1 over 3. So 3 times 1/3 equals 1. These are important as we go through multi-step equations. So example 1, make sure you copy the work down for this. Negative 2x plus 8 equals negative 12. So what's going on? We got to look at the side where the variable is, figure out what's going on. So with x, we have negative 2 times x, and we have an 8 being added to it. So if we go backwards through the order of operation, remember it's parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So we want to undo adding and subtracting first because we're going backwards through the order of operation. So over here where x is, I have to undo adding 8. So I'm going to subtract 8. I only undo one thing at a time. So show that you're doing it to both sides because we're solving these algebraically. So on the left, I'm left with negative 2x. Bring down my equal sign. And negative 12 minus 8 is negative 20. All right, now I have this simpler equation to solve, and ask yourself again what's going on with x. We got negative 2 times x, so that means I have to undo multiplying by negative 2, and the inverse of that would be to divide by negative 2. On the left I'll have x, and on the right negative 20 divided by negative 2 is positive 10. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is positive. That's your answer. Number 2, we have 5 plus x divided by 4 equals negative 10. Again, we're going backwards through the order of operation. Look at x. It's being divided by 4, and 5 is being added to it. So I want to undo addition or subtraction first. So 5, I need to make that become 0. So I want to subtract 5. And I want to subtract 5 from the other side. I only do it once on the left and once on the right. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, do to the other side. On the left, I'm left with x over 4, or x divided by 4. Negative 10 minus 5 is negative 15. Now I just look at the simpler equation, x divided by 4. So I have to undo dividing by 4 by multiplying by 4 on each side. So when you multiply by 4 on each side, you end up with 1x, or just x, equals negative 15 times 4, and that's going to be negative 60. let's look at some other situations where we'll be solving two-step equations. So solving some special cases here. So now, look at number 5. I have 3y minus 8y equals 25. It looks a little complicated because you have two variables there, but both of those variables are y, and those are like terms. It's always best to combine your like terms before you try to undo anything. It makes it just so much easier. So 3y's minus 8y's, remember we can't switch this around. It's not 8 minus 3, it's 3 minus 8. So that's going to give me negative 5y equals 25. So now you can see that you have a one-step equation. We have negative 5 times y. We undo that by dividing by negative 5, and then divide the other side by negative 5, and you're left with y equals negative 5. Okay, the last one here, let's look at number 6. You see that there are parentheses in there. Now we've done stuff similar to this. Now that 2 times the quantity of x plus 1, all we have to do is distribute, because that 2 means we have 2 of those x plus 1. So I would suggest to distribute first. So you're going to multiply 2 times x, which gives you 2x. You're going to then multiply 2 times 1, gives you plus 2, equals 12. Now this should look similar to the ones that we were just doing. So what's going on with x? Well, 2 is being added to it, and it's also being multiplied by 2. Remember, we want to undo addition and subtraction first, so we're going to subtract 2 to undo the adding of 2. Do it to both sides of the equation, both sides of the equal sign. That leaves 2x equals 10. Then 2 times x, so I have to undo multiplying by 2 by dividing by 2. That bar there means divide, and that gives us x equals 5. Alright, there you have it. Here's a helpful hint. Remember, we're going to reverse the order of operation when solving equations that have more than one operation. So we're going to go backwards. We're going to undo addition and subtraction first, and then lastly, multiplication and division. Alright, multi-step equations are really not much harder than single-step equations. It's just that you have to do one step at a time when solving these. So good luck.